And welcome, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out with you. Another Appraiser Coach podcast. Got some breaking news going on in the appraisal industry. I don't know if you want to call it breaking news, but it's very important stuff going on, and it's happening right now. And so we wanted to get this episode out to you. I've got a great guest on again that I'll introduce to you in just a couple of minutes. But I first want to remind you, of course, we are sponsored by Alamode software. Alamode is the software that I've been using for over 20 years. They've been doing this for over 30 years. And you'll want to check them out at alamode.com/free trial. Once again, it's alamode.com/free trial. We're also sponsored, of course, by DataMaster. DataMaster is where I use. Unfortunately, it's not in all of the areas that I cover, but it is in at least one that I cover. And I'll tell you, it saves me at least 30 to 60 minutes per report. You'll want to check them out for 14 days free. You can go to datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. Again, it's datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. And finally, we are sponsored by Working RE Magazine. Working RE is where I go to get my information about what's going on in the appraisal industry. It had a great article here a couple of days ago about the very topic that we're going to be talking about today, of course, and another one coming out from what I hear on the 7th, which is just in a couple of days after we record this, and it will be after this is posted. So if you want to know what's going on with the Louisiana Real Estate Appraisers Board and the FTC, you can go, of course, to workingre.com and read the information that is there. Well, folks, I kind of tipped my hat already. We're going to be talking, of course, today about the FTC versus the Louisiana Real Estate Appraisers Board. And I've got an individual that's been on the program several times, a good friend of mine, and somebody who knows their stuff, an MAI, been appraising over 30 years. Mr. Tim Andersen, welcome back to the program, my friend.
Dustin, thank you. It is great to be with you. My family's best to you and all of yours.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that very, very much. And appreciate you coming on this timely subject. Something going on, and I'm sure appraisers, unless they're living under a rock, have heard a little bit of what's going on. But I'll just be honest with you, Tim. This is a little bit confusing because, number one, it's happening very fast. Number two, it gets into a lot of legalese as you start to read through what's going on between the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Louisiana Real Estate Appraisers Board. Just briefly tell us, Tim, what's going on here? Why is this news?
Okay, Dustin, if it's confusing to you, then I'm completely lost.
Okay. Wait a minute, I had you on to clear this up.
Okay, basically, here's what's going on. A few years ago, and it started actually in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, there were folks in North Carolina offering teeth whitening services. They'd go to beauty parlors, barbershops, parties, etc., and offer these services. Well, for various reasons, and we're not going to go into those. The state of North Carolina got involved, and its Board of Dental Examiners decided that such services were within the purview of dentists and should not be offered by a layman.
Okay.
So as a result, the Board of Dentistry issued a cease and desist order against one of the bigger groups that was doing this. And the bigger group sued, saying that it was a restraint of free trade, and the North Carolina Board of Dentistry, et cetera, was being unfair, and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, there was a lawsuit. And in the lower court, oh, and by the way, I'm not an attorney either, and you and I are both going to make legal noises, but neither one of us is an attorney. So in the lower court, the lower court said, hello, the North Carolina Real Estate or North Carolina Dentistry Board has the right to say what is dentistry and what isn't. So the groups basically appealed, and the appellate court agreed with the dentistry board. Think, nope, you guys want to practice dentistry, go to dental school, pass the dental exam.
Gotcha.
So the FTC got involved and took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And the United States Supreme Court decided that the Board of Dentistry was wrong in trying to control dentistry within the state of North Carolina. Basically what it said was that there were two problems, according to the Supreme Court. Number one, the North Carolina State Dentistry Board was made up of dentists. You know, hello, what do you expect, plumbers?
Right.
But because it was made up of dentists, when they made the decision not to allow non-dentists to whiten teeth or offer teeth whitening services, They were not doing so out of their responsibility and duty to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the good folks of North Carolina. They were doing it out of selfish reasons. They were trying to restrain trade. And the second reason was that part of the state's defense in the appellate court was that the board itself, because it was legally constituted, legally set up, legally filled by the governor, etc., basically did not come under antitrust rules. And it could make all the rules it wanted to relative to dentists. The Supreme Court, however, disagreed and said, nope, because you guys, not only because you guys are restraining trade, but because you guys are not properly supervised by an even higher board, then you're not properly supervised, and that's why you're restraining trade, and therefore for these two reasons, we're telling you you're bad boys and girls, and there are terrible things going to happen to you. So basically what happened is every board in every state took a look at this decision and said, my, oh my, what is it we're going to do? Nobody really knows yet. And this suit by the FTC against the state of Louisiana, or the Louisiana Real Estate Appraisers Board, is basically the same thing. The FTC has said, you guys cannot dictate what reasonable fees should be, what CNR fees should be, because that's a restraint of trade, and you all, too, are not properly overseen by some other state board. So this has antitrust ramifications. It has ramifications of, okay, is the state bar going to be made up of plumbers? Is the state appraisal board going to be made up of surgeons? Is the state morticians board going to be made up of mortgage brokers? This decision has opened some really big questions on governance and the ability of industries to oversee themselves. And in opening these questions and asking these questions, there's going to have to be some serious litigation, some serious legislation to answer them. And right now, nobody has a clue where all this is going.
Okay. So I think you said the word of the day, it's probably a word that's going to come up various times throughout our discussion today, Tim, and that is the word questions. I think there's probably at this point, wouldn't you agree that there's more questions than answers on this?
Oh, without a doubt. Again, we don't know what is going to happen to the typical boots on the ground appraiser. Chances are that this is not going to affect the boots on the ground appraiser all that terribly much. However, if all of a sudden we find that our state appraisal boards are composed of carpenters, and I got nothing against carpenters, that's not the point. The point is, we will be dealing with people who know nothing about what we do, nothing about why we do it, nothing about the rules we have to follow. And we will most likely see an even greater switch, I call it a metamorphosis, an even greater metamorphosis of state appraisal boards from being licensing and certifying entities and disciplining entities to consumer advocacy entities. And that is not the position of the state appraisal board, but yet if it's not made up of appraisers, it just very well may turn into that.
Okay. So let's back up for just a second. And first of all, let's lay the foundation. Maybe I should have done this in the beginning, but let's do it now. The purpose of today's show is not to predict what's going to happen with all of this. We have no idea. The purpose of today's show is to say, hey, appraisers, here's what's going on. You need to be aware of it at least. And aware of it for various reasons, because number one, it could affect you down the road. Number two, there's a possibility to get involved politically. Now, again, this is a lawsuit. It's not like you go and do your political duty here. But I hope that this situation with appraisers helps punctuate the importance of being involved at your state level, on your board level, at your local level, with your local board of realtors, and the organizations that you're involved in, or as the case may be, should be involved in. Appraisers, are you involved? Are you participating in various opportunities to be involved in the process. Number one, do you care about your profession? And again, I want to punctuate. Again, this is a lawsuit. It's not like you have a lot of sway here. But number one, we should be informed. And number two, where we can, we need to be involved. And today's show is more about the first part of that, the information part. So I want to back up, Tim, and just help clarify a couple of things, because you're talking about the dentistry board, and I'm sure there's some listeners saying, Tim, what in the world does the dentistry board have to do with real estate appraisers? Why is this case in North Carolina so important to appraisers when we're talking about dentistry boards?
Okay, it is absolutely completely irrelevant to appraisers, but that's not the point. The point is the Supreme Court decided that a regulatory board, be it attorneys, CPAs, appraisers, real estate brokers, whatever, a regulatory board in setting fees, which is basically what the Louisiana board did. It said, AMCs, lenders, et cetera, you will pay customary and reasonable fees to your appraisers. Okay. The state of Louisiana went through a lot of time and trouble and expense and hired I guess it was Louisiana Southern University Business Department, I think, to conduct the survey of customary and reasonable fees that AMCs were paying to appraisers in the state. So it's not like the board said, oh, it's Tuesday, we like $650. Mm-hmm. Okay. It was the state board said, we got the experts, we got the people who understand statistics, we got the people who understand polling, we got the people who know how to interpret this stuff, we got the people that don't make math mistakes like the rest of us do. And they indicated that the customary and reasonable fees were whatever it is they are. And then the reason the state of Louisiana was doing this is because not that they didn't have something to do on a Wednesday, was because Dodd-Frank, right, a federal law of the land, says that lenders, AMCs, et cetera, will pay to appraisers customary and reasonable fees. But yet the FTC has come along and said, if you follow the law, we will seek to punish you.
Yeah.
So basically this litigation, one of the questions this litigation has to answer is or who is the appraisal board's master? Mm-hmm. Is it the law of the land or is it the Federal Trade Commission? Yeah. And right now we don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I'm glad you stated it that way. The dentistry board decision, at least on the Supreme Court level, is important because it set a precedence. It set a precedence that said something about the state boards, something that had not been said before. It put into question what is the purpose of the state boards? Can they be made up of appraisers who might have an influence in their own pockets, if you will? Then you look at obviously you've got ramifications on all kinds of levels. The FTC now is stepping in on the Louisiana side. Again, we're talking a different state, but using a precedence with the dentistry board, now we've got a Federal Trade Commission coming in and saying, Louisiana, you cannot set fees. You cannot, and not that they're setting fees, but they're determining what's customary and reasonable according to the federal law, Dodd-Frank, which says that we're supposed to pay customary and reasonable fees. So, Tim, is the question that the FTC is trying to answer whether or not it's the state board's decision or whether or not it's the appraiser's decision to decide what's customary and reasonable fees, or do we even know that? Do we even know what the FTC is doing?
Yeah, Dustin, I have read the FTC's complaint. I have read the Louisiana board's response. And it is not clear yet exactly what it is the FTC is trying to prove or is trying to get the state of Louisiana to do. So far, it has said, Louisiana, you cannot fix fees. And by telling AMCs and lenders what they must pay to appraisers, what customary and reasonable appraisal services fees are, as far as the FTC is concerned, the state of Louisiana Appraisers Board has fixed fees, has set fees, right, which is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And violating the Sherman Antitrust Act is not the way to grow old happily.
Very good. Yeah, well put. Okay, Tim, I want to break for just a second. I want to pause here and just remind the listeners of our our various sponsors. But when we come back, Tim, I want to talk about, again, not to predict what is down the road, but why is this important to appraisers? Why should appraisers be paying attention to this, and anything else, Tim, that we haven't covered that you think is important to bring out when we come back from the break? I first want to pause here and remind you folks, we are sponsored by Working RE Magazine. Working RE Magazine is a great place to go for information like this. If you really want the nuts and bolts about what we're talking about today, I would encourage you to go to workingre.com. There are at least 2 articles by the time this posts that I think are important. One came out over the weekend, I believe probably June 3rd, maybe June 2nd, by Isaac Peck, and you need to take a peek at that one. And then he also promised one coming up on the 7th of June, which will be before this posts on Sunday. So once you listen to this, go back and read those 2 articles, and I think you'll have a pretty good idea as to what's going on. Working RE is the place that I go to get information about the appraisal profession, because I care about the appraisal profession. Folks, if you care about your profession as well, you'll go to workingre.com and check out what they have to say about what's going on currently. Speaking about what's going on currently, I had an opportunity to do a little training over the weekend with a new contractor of mine. And, every time I deal with Alamode, I'm just super impressed with what they can do for us. I took her in and I showed her the tools that are available in the comps side-by-side grid. Folks, we're talking about automatic adjustments. We're talking about rounding to the nearest 100. We're talking about all kinds of things that you can train the computer to do, which will save you time and energy and make you more efficient and your quality to raise at the same time. That's Alamode. Check them out right now at alamode.com/free trial. Again, it's alamode.com/free trial for your 15 days free. Speaking of free days, how about 2 weeks with DataMaster? You can go to datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. I'm often asked, well, Dustin, what does DataMaster do? Oh, my word. How about saving you 30 to 60 minutes per report? That's what DataMaster does. DataMaster is the opportunity for you to download directly from your tax records, your MLS, and various other resources directly into your report. It works with all kinds of software. Check them out right now at datamasterfreetrial.com/coach, and you can start saving time and being more efficient with your appraisal products today. Again, it's datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. And we are back. Welcome back to the program, Mr. Tim Andersen from Florida. Thank you for being on, my friend. I sure appreciate it.
Oh, it's great, Dustin. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Tim's been a guest on here several times. Tim's a friend of mine and very knowledgeable. Been appraising for a long, long time, and I appreciate him coming on about this important topic. Today, folks, we're talking about the Louisiana State Real Estate Board and the lawsuit that is brought by the FTC. That can't be a fun thing to get in the mail, right? A letter from the FTC?
No. No, Dustin, you say I've been doing this a long time. When I started, my beard was dark. Anyway, obviously the typical boots on the ground appraiser is not going to get a letter from the FTC.
Sure.
The Louisiana board got the letter from the FTC.
Right.
So it is what you would call big, because it really doesn't affect us directly. As I said, it affects us indirectly, and at this point we're not quite sure how it's going to affect us, but you were talking about, you wanted to mention state boards, etc. So the state appraisal coalitions, etc. So go ahead and do that, and then we could talk about the ramifications of its effect on those entities.
Right. So, the point that I was making is I believe this show today is twofold. Number one, to inform. And I'll be honest with you, Tim, when I first read this, it was very confusing. I read through it a couple of times. I also read the lawsuit and the response from Louisiana. And it wasn't, honestly, Tim, until I got your talking points that I thought, okay, this is where this piece fits and this is where that piece fits. You get into the legalese, and I guess that's what we pay lawyers for. But in general, it makes sense. Well, I shouldn't say that. In general, I understand what's going on. It doesn't make sense. But number one, information. Number two is that we as appraisers are involved, and I don't care what that means. There are so many opportunities out there to be involved. It can be with your state coalitions. It can be with your regional coalitions. It can be with a national coalition. It can be with no coalition at all. It can be simply getting involved politically or socially on social media or in other ways that can have ramifications far and wide for what is going on with your profession. Folks, it's so important that we're involved. It's so important that we understand that this is our profession and that we need to have a say in what we do. Now, Tim, I want to make it clear, I'm a free market guy. I always have been. I love laissez-faire economics. I've studied Austrian economics, and I like the free market system. It's not a perfect system, but I like it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't like the term customary and reasonable when it came from the federal government in the beginning, and now we start to see things a little bit unravel. That being said, I don't hope for this or hope for that, and I have no idea where this is going. I simply hope to keep making money as a real estate appraiser. I hope to keep paying my bills as a real estate appraiser. Now, you say this doesn't have effect on the boots on the ground appraiser, but it might in the end, right? I mean, the way this rolls out. And again, I don't want to get into a lot of speculation, but maybe it's important to punctuate some of the ways that this could go.
You mean we're not going to talk about the FTC and UFOs? Dustin, I'm disappointed.
I'm skipping over that talking point.
Okay. Anyway, Dustin, from the standpoint of, whenever folks are viewing this, I mean, we're recording this on June 5th, okay?
Yep.
From the standpoint of June 5th, 2017, it does not yet affect boots on the ground appraisers.
Okay.
It very possibly could in the future. So let's talk about the involvement of appraisers and where they can get involved and how they can get involved. If you are a member of an appraisal society, you need to get in touch with your local leaders, you need to get in touch with your national leaders and express to them how you feel, and more importantly, why it is you feel that about this particular topic. If you work with state coalitions, then you need to do the same thing. It's interesting. State coalitions are turning out to be just as effective, if not more so, than the appraisal societies. And there are various reasons for that, but I think that the biggest one is because the state appraisal coalitions tend to reflect the feeling of the appraisers themselves rather than the feeling of the larger organization. There are appraisal coalitions in many states, not all obviously, but in many states, and in some of them they are quite powerful. State legislators tend to pay attention when they come knocking on the door. I don't know if they're going to be amicus curiae briefs, in other words, briefs, a friend of the court briefs on where the various appraisal societies stand on this issue. I don't know. We have no way of knowing that until it actually happens. But we do need to let our legislators know. We do need to, and when I say legislators, I mean both state and nationally. We need to let them know how it is what we feel, why we feel it, and we need to let them know that while we may not be a particularly large group, we are an influential group in the fact that, if we don't step in and do what we do, houses tend not to get appraised, mortgage loans tend not to get made, and when we can say that, we can influence the mortgage loan continuum in the United States, people are going to tend to listen to us. Maybe not as attentively as we might like, but they're going to tend to listen to us. Now, when it comes to customary and reasonable fees, I agree with you. I had a lot of trouble with that fact because it looked to me like appraisers were trying to say, well, okay, for property type A across the country, we'll charge this much. And for property type B across the country, we'll charge that much, which is essentially price fixing, which is what upset the FTC so much.
Right.
So as a result, we may have to go back more to negotiations when that AMC sends out a blast saying, we'll be happy to pay you $250 to appraise this $15 million house, then our response should be a gentle chuckle, and we delete the email.
A gentle chuckle, is that what happens in your office?
Well, if I laugh out loud, it upsets the dog. So,
gotcha. Okay.
It's a gentle chuckle, and I delete, some control, and I delete the email. Or I go, thank you so thoughtfully. That's very kind of you. May the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits. And you guys want to pay me, $5,000 to appraise that $15 million house? Okay, I'm your guy. But, you want to dink around and insult me? No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And when appraisers are willing to take upon themselves, let me rephrase. As appraisers take upon themselves the responsibility for their own fees, then we're going to see problems such as this one go away, because we're going to negotiate our fees freely and openly, which is basically what the Sherman Antitrust Act says. Charge whatever you want to. Charge what the traffic will bear. We don't care. Just don't fix prices.
Right. And what the FTC, and just to be clear, what the FTC is alleging here, I hope I'm interpreting this correctly. The FTC is alleging that that's exactly what's going on, not with individual appraisers, but with the Louisiana State Board. In other words, the Louisiana State Board is fixing fees because they are, now they did their research, that's not in question. They are saying this fee, whatever that fee is, $800, whatever, is customary and reasonable in the state of Louisiana. Thus, they have, by making that statement, at least the FTC is alleging, they have set the fees. They have fixed the fees. And Louisiana is simply saying, hey, we're just doing what the federal law requires us to do. It's Dodd-Frank that said that we had to have customary reasonable fees. We're just trying to follow the law.
Yes. That's what it comes down to. We're caught between that proverbial rock and the proverbial hard place on this. And while we as individual appraisers are not responsible for that, state appraisal boards are, and if state appraisal boards are impacted, we too will be impacted.
There you go. Okay. Let's talk about state appraisal boards for just a second. We're equal opportunity here. We realize this goes to 50 states, and not all states have appraisal boards. Arizona comes to mind. Arizona does not have.
They have an appraisal board, but it's different because it's under the Department of Banking and Financial Regulation or something.
Right.
Yeah,
but not a specific.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. And there's other states that don't have appraisal boards. I don't remember off the top of my head what they are. But most, I would say most. Tim, would you agree? Most states across the nation do have appraisal boards. And I would even go so far, I don't know the makeup of all of them, but I would say most of them have appraisers on the board, if not mostly appraisers on the board. I know that's the case where in the states where I have licenses.
Yeah, typically, let's say you've got 7 people on the board. You'll have, say, 4 appraisers, 2 bankers, and 1 member of the public. Okay. But it's typically a majority appraisers, yes.
So, Tim, the question is, what ramification will this have, in your opinion, or could have? Let's put it that way. Not speculation, just things that could happen. Could we see the demise of real estate boards? Could we see it going to a national board? Could we see board changes in the sense of the makeup of the board? In other words, this lawsuit could have ramifications on a state board level. What do you think those possibly could be, depending on how it goes?
This litigation, depending on how it goes, could, not will, could have ramifications on state appraisal boards. You might find that appraisers become a minority of state appraisal boards as opposed to majorities. You might find that some states will, as did Arizona, will do away with the appraisal board and put it under the auspices of some other governmental entity, which may or may not get all excited about its licensing, certifying, and disciplinary responsibilities. We could see the demise of state appraisal boards, although FIREA pretty much demands that. So FIREA would either have to be changed or withdrawn. And I don't know that anybody is particularly looking in that direction or for that to happen. Dodd-Frank may be repealed, given the current Republican administration, which has said that that is one of its goals. Who knows what will happen if all of a sudden appraisers do not have the quote-unquote protection of the mandate to be paid CNR fees, customary and reasonable fees. I don't know. It is certainly within the realm of possibility. We may see the need for states to set up oversight boards to oversee the oversight boards. And one of the reasons that many people believe that USPAP is not uniformly enforced or interpreted is because many state appraisal boards don't have the budget, don't have the manpower, don't have the training to do so. So there are some serious ramifications of this litigation. However, what they're going to be, we clearly don't know yet. Yeah. What they could be, even my tarot cards are a little fuzzy on that.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I want to close on this thought from Josh Wallet. But before we get there, is there anything else that we missed, Tim?
Sure. The next set of winning lotto numbers. You haven't sent them to me. Get on the ball, Dustin. Come on.
That comes after, Tim. After.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. And you get 10%.
You weren't supposed to mention that. Okay. You brought up something to me yesterday, added to the talking points that we went back and forth on over the weekend, and I think it's important to point out. And I'll just toss the ball to you, because and a big shout out to Josh Wallet. And by the way, I will send this to him before we air, because I don't want to misinterpret his opinion. But I thought he made an interesting point, and I think you did as well. So Josh put out, was it a blog post just a day or so ago? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
What was Josh's point that you thought was important that we make today?
Well, while I don't remember the details of his point, I think basically what Josh was saying is, let's not get all excited now because we don't know where this is going. Mm-hmm. Let's be professional about it, and let's keep doing the best job we possibly can. But right now, let's not throw our arms up in panic and start running around in a complete tizzy, because we don't know yet where this is going.
Yeah. And one of the things that we haven't talked about that I think Josh pointed out is the AMC issue. He pointed out that, as much as we would like to say appraisers set fees, and we do obviously with private deals and other situations, maybe local connection with brick and mortar lenders, which we can deal directly with, despite what some people interpret Dodd-Frank as being. But in the end, AMCs are setting the fees, and once that fee is set under TRID, we know that it's unable to change it, at least without going through quite a process. And I think it was interesting that Josh brought this up, because I think it's an important aspect. What role do the AMCs play in all of this, Tim?
Well, obviously they play a big role. They're a middleman. And the AMC calls you up, says, hello, go appraise 1234 Elm Street, and we will pay you $350. Now, is the AMC charging the lender $350? Is the lender charging the borrower $350? No. Now, the AMC provides a business service to the lender and deserves to get paid for that. The question is, why does the AMC deserve to get paid from the appraiser when the AMC is providing the business service to the lender? That's who should be paying it.
Yeah.
So the appraiser says, well, I won't do it for $350. Well, that puts the AMC into a tizzy, because under TRID, they've already told the borrower, well, yes, the entire appraisal fee is $750. And then the AMC wants the difference between the $350 and the $750 for its overhead, profit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if the appraiser says, nope, I won't even look at it, I won't even open a file for less than $500, then the AMC has to pay the extra $150 out of its end, which of course it doesn't want to do, because if it does that too often, it's, the AMC guys are going to be practicing their greetings at Walmart.
Okay. And we'll wrap it up right there. I think there's a few appraisers that might be cheering.
I'm sure there are a whole lot of appraisers out there to whom that would really not matter all that much, frankly. Right. But yeah, I know a lot of people in AMCs, and they got bills to pay and families Absolutely. To feed and mortgages to service, etc. So they deserve to make a living as much as we deserve to make a living. But again, this is not, this suit with Louisiana is not primarily about AMCs. It's about the state appraisal board in surveying and then basically institutionalizing customary and reasonable fees violate the Sherman Antitrust Act. And how AMCs handle this, how this affects and impacts AMCs, is one of the very possibly unintended consequences that this legislation could have that right now we clearly cannot foresee.
All right, my friend, Tim Andersen from Florida, thank you very much for joining us today. I think this is important information. Grab your popcorn. Be interesting to see how this plays out.
It'll be interesting to see how this works, won't it?
It will. Tim Andersen from Florida, great guest, always is. I appreciate him coming on, folks. If you have not heard already, we have started a new membership that you'll want to check out. Just go to theappraisercoach.com/memberships, and you can check out the Appraiser Academy. Basically, folks, it's the opportunity to monthly be able to participate with me or one of my guests in a very intensive webinar on how to improve the efficiencies of your business, and then to deal with question answers from you, the participants, on how we can very specifically pinpoint things that are going on with your business. You can do so anonymously. You can do so as your real name. You can do so as an alias, but we will deal with specific questions that you might have about your appraisal business so that we can help you to be better at what you do. Again, it's the Appraiser Academy. Check them out at theappraisercoach.com, folks, and we will see you next time.